And welcome to Whiskey Politics, this special Independence Day edition with Dave Sussman, episode 128. I am your host, Dave Sussman, and thanks for joining us on America's Voice Television Network. And you can also find us on Dish, YouTube, and our video series. Everywhere, our podcast series is on all podcast applications as well as Ricochet's network. And if you're listening on iTunes, please don't forget to take a moment and give us a 5-star rating and comment. You can also find me at David Sussman on Twitter and find the Whiskey Politics page on Facebook. As I mentioned, it's a special Independence Day edition of Whiskey Politics. And boy, who better to talk about independence than today's guest, Brandon Straka. Brandon, if you haven't turned on the news lately, just a little bit about Brandon, or gone on social media, you have missed one of the incredible movements, one of the most incredible things I've personally seen in years. They talk about viral, but this hashtag walk away campaign that was started by Brandon, his video's gone viral in the very definition of the word, with millions of views, reposts, retweets, and to the point, walk away is now ubiquitous. I'm seeing it everywhere. Brandon's a busy man, and in fact, we had to reschedule due to another appearance on Fox News last night, but we're delighted to have him join us. Welcome, Brandon.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Happy 4th of July to you.
Happy 4th of July.
I love the colors.
Thank you.
You're going to get a lot of fans on Ricochet with that t-shirt.
You know, the thing is, I actually don't look that good in red, so I don't own much red. So this was this had to be my 4th of July outfit because it was the only red, white, and blue I had.
Well, it's great. And we were just chatting before we started recording here. The whole Star Wars thing is a really interesting story. You know, they're just, it's a disaster for Disney right now. So I think we're going to see some interesting things coming out here.
Right.
So, okay, for those that are just getting back from Mars, tell us, what is Walk Away?
All right. So Walk Away is a campaign that I started. It's actually the hashtag Walk Away campaign. I'm glad we're talking about this because I think a lot of people have probably seen that hashtag, but didn't know exactly what it means. Why is everybody using this hashtag all of a sudden, Walk Away? So essentially what happened is my whole life I was a kind of a Democrat by default, if you will. I'm a gay man, like most, I think, gay men or like most gay people or minorities of any kind, if they're racial minorities, what have you. We find ourselves kind of by default in the Democrat camp and the liberal camp, and that I was certainly no exception. So sort of by default, I ended up being over there on the left. And as the years sort of progressed, I found myself more and more uncomfortable with where things were heading in terms of identity politics and politically correct culture, like you were just talking about, like something as simple as Hollywood and the Star Wars movies. I mean, everything is becoming sort of this indoctrination from the left, and not only indoctrination, but it's becoming so oppressive. I mean, the division that's taking place where it's you're either a victim or you're an oppressor. You know, you're either privileged or you are a victim, you know, and it's so divisive. And I was becoming increasingly uncomfortable with that. But then the 2016 election happened. I was still, you know, although I was becoming uncomfortable and I was beginning to ask some questions, I was definitely on the Hillary train. I thought that, you know, again, it's sort of that thoughtless, mindless, you know, going along with the liberal narrative. I was like, we really need a woman. We really need a woman to be in there. Why? I don't, you know, it's like on the one hand, on the left, they constantly talk about, you know, men and women are interchangeable. They're the same. They're equal. There's no difference between men and women. There's, you know, but for some reason, we also need a woman to be the president. So, you know, I was absolutely devastated when Hillary didn't win, and I was devastated that Donald Trump did win. And so I kind of I became very angry, and I became very vocal about my anger. Big shock, a liberal who's, you know, openly outraged. But yeah, I was that person who was going on, you know, Facebook and social media and just blasting middle America. And, you know, what happened to you guys? How could you lose your conscience? You know, what happened to your soul? How could you vote for somebody who called all Mexicans rapists and mocked a man's disability and, you know, advocates for the sexual assault of women, you know? And then finally, after I'd gone on several rants, I had somebody who I've known my whole life, who's a very staunch conservative, very delicately reach out to me and show me something that proved very definitively that the media had been isolating moments in Trump's campaign and taking them out of context. and making them appear that he was advocating for racism and bigotry, and that his followers were supporting this. But the example that she showed me was the disabled reporter incident. She showed me a video which clearly demonstrated that for years and years, Trump has used that exact same voice and that exact same gesture anytime he was making fun of somebody who was caught in a lie or groveling or doing something shady. It had absolutely nothing to do with that reporter's disability. It had to do with the fact that that reporter had been dishonest and was sort of groveling and caught in a lie. He happened to be disabled, yes, but it had nothing to do with his disability. And at that point, it opened my eyes to the fact that the media was capable of being incredibly dishonest. And I mean, it sounds so silly now because it's so obvious. Of course, that's what they're doing. But, for many people on the left, myself included, we just didn't know that. I mean, we really did believe that CNN was honest, MSNBC was honest, the New York Times was honest. We thought they were telling us the truth, that this monster was running for president and that his followers had been put under a spell and following him. Well, long story short, once I made this discovery, I went on kind of a quest for research to find out more. And the more I found out, the more I was shocked by the level of dishonesty that's really taking place over there. I mean, one example that I use often is, I got on YouTube and I started finding videos of Black people who support Trump, who went to his rallies. And when CNN showed up, CNN intentionally cut them out of the shot so that it appeared that there were only white people at the rally.
Right.
And this was it was mind-blowing to me. I was like, I can't believe this is what's going on. Well, so I started trying to talk to people more and more about this. Friends of mine, I live in a very liberal city, New York City. And what I found was that it was so interesting because people were, just living in this constant state of outrage and anger and, just vitriolic kind of rhetoric when discussing Trump and Trump followers. And in my mind, I was kind of thinking, wow, I feel like I've begun to discover that things are not as bad as they seem, that the media has kind of led us down this path of believing that we're in this incredibly dark and dangerous, period of time. But in fact, that's maybe not the case. So in my mind, I'm thinking this is a relief. I'm going to provide them with evidence that, listen, we don't have to be so angry. We don't have to be so outraged. I don't think this guy is as bad as we think, but people didn't want to accept that. What I found is that people wanted to be angry, they wanted to be outraged, and they were actually upset with me, almost like, how dare you come to us with this piece of evidence that makes it harder for us to hate him? And I said, this is bizarre, this is insane. So I decided to sit down and kind of once and for all write what I call the definitive manifesto about everything that's wrong with liberalism, everything that's wrong with the Democrat Party, and make a video about it and put it out there. And then also create a campaign based around it, because I know there's a lot of other people who are feeling just as uncomfortable as I'm feeling, who are feeling just as fed up as I'm feeling, who are getting sick of all the hatred, the constant rage, the constant calls for, name calling and resistance. And now it's almost gotten to the point of calling for harassment bordering on violence, and people are sick of it. So I was encouraging people to join what I'm calling the hashtag walkaway campaign. And what it is essentially is it's a testimonial campaign on Facebook. People are leaving videos, people are leaving written testimonials, and they're telling about why they're walking away. And they're using the hashtag walkaway to get the word out that this is a movement. People are fed up with the left. They're fed up with what the Democrats have become, and they don't want it anymore. They're ready to walk away. And whatever becomes of the Democrat Party at this point, well, that's on them. Because frankly, I don't even know what they stand for anymore. I don't know what this party is all about. All I can gather is we hate Trump. We want to impeach Trump, and that we, at this point, take our base for granted. We take Black people for granted. We take gay people for granted. We take minorities for granted. All we care about is illegal immigrants.
Yeah, and gender and identity politics. And I think, you encapsulated really well exactly what you're doing. But let's for our audience that are just learning about this, and again, this is going viral on social media. Everybody's learning about this all across the board here. First of all, before we get into some of the questions that I have, and we've got some questions here from Ricochet members as well as my own on all of this, and I want to get into some of the details on this, but one question: the election happened November 2016. Mm-hmm. When did this shift happen for you? Because you were talking about this in 2017. That was a fairly quick turn for you, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, once that spark happens, I think in a person who's having their red pill experience, it
Hmm.
happens fast. I mean, unless you make a conscious choice to reject what you're feeling and what you're learning. But if you, that's not my personality. You know, I'm a person who I like, especially if I feel like I've been sold a raw bill of goods, I want to find out more. And so, yes, the story I just told you about the person who presented me with the debunking video, the debunking that Trump mocked the reporter's disability, that happened, I believe, in the month of February, like right around the 1st of February. That got me started on this path of research. And I did a lot of research. I mean, I was reading about the history of the Democrat Party. I was doing research about the media and how the media covered Trump's campaign. And but you know, as slowly but surely as I was sort of transitioning and falling away from liberalism because I was discovering the truth about what it really is about and what the Democrats are about, there was still a little bit of me that wanted to hold on, that wasn't ready to let go yet. And I remember in the month of March, Rachel Maddow went on a tweeting frenzy. She got on Twitter and I've got his tax returns. I've got his tax returns. No,
Yeah,
really, tune in tonight. Tonight, we're going to blow the
that was
lid
a
off this.
big dud.
Oh my God, dude. Okay. So at this point, I was like, my relationship with the liberal media was on life support. Like it was in hospice care. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it was on its last breath. But when she tweeted that out, there was this little tiny bit of me that still remained that thought, okay, if she goes on her show tonight and blows the lid off of, you know, so she has some smoking gun about his tax returns, I'm actually going to forget about everything that I just learned over the past month and a half, and I'm going to get back on the I hate Trump train, and I'm going to get back on the let's get this guy out of the office camp. Like I was ready. I was ready to to reverse everything that had just happened over the past like 4 to 6 weeks. So I tuned in. I was sitting there in my bed. I was ready with my bowl of popcorn. Let's get him. Let's get him. And what happened next was that woman went on the air. She vamped for 25 minutes, talking nonsense about nothing. And then she finally produced two pieces of paper from 2005, which proved that he paid his taxes in 2005. And I'm not kidding you when I say I took my remote control. I threw it down on my bed. I was in my bedroom by myself, and I literally said out loud by myself, "I'm done. I'm done." It was that I can actually pinpoint. That was the day that I officially closed the book, and I said, "I'm no longer a Democrat. I'm no longer a liberal. These people are making this up as they go along. They are lying through their faces, and I'm done.
So
I'm literally
that was the pivot. That was the
that
pivot.
was the
Now
final straw."
you also put this into word and song, right? You did what was it, like a one man musical? I mean, you had people on stage with you, but you talked about this when, what was that, fall of 2017?
October 2017, I did a show that was ironically titled "Resist: A Rock Revolution." And I did that knowing that it was being performed in New York City. I knew I was performing for a liberal audience. What I was hoping to see, I'm a singer, I'm an actor, and so I
Right.
can, you know, I'm a performance artist by nature, and so that's the medium that I wanted to use to try to. I knew I couldn't get on stage and convince everybody to. I knew no one was going to walk out of my show and be red pilled. Okay, I knew that. But what I thought was, if I can provide them in the most delicate fashion with enough information and evidence that they will walk away from this show and go home and just get on their computers
Right.
and do a little research for themselves and see, I will consider it a total success. If even 4 or 5 people go home and get on their computer and say, I'm going to look into some of those things he was saying, I would consider that to be a complete and total success. So I did this show that I ironically titled Resist because I thought that it would actually be appealing to a liberal audience to hear that title. And when they came, what they actually saw was some delicately served up information and evidence and encouraging them to do their own research. And then I closed out the show by sort of rounding out what the title was really about. I gave a monologue at the end of the show in which I said to them, resist the forces that wish to keep you thinking the same. Resist being a part of the repost echo chamber. Resist the belief that you know how somebody else feels if you haven't asked them. That's what resist was about.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I think it's online. People can find it. And there's some good music in there and some great
On YouTube.
messaging. And
Yeah.
So let's go back a few years because I'm always interested in the genesis,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So you're not originally from New York. You were what, Nebraska, a farm boy?
that's right.
Okay. So growing up in Nebraska, as a homosexual, I assume you knew most of your life.
Yeah,
That's
I
okay.
did. Yeah, I
So
figured it out when I was about 5.
from 5 years old. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So the genesis of Nebraska. It's obviously a fairly red state. I don't know where you lived in Nebraska. I've been there several times, but Omaha and Lincoln specifically. But tell us how this genesis. How were you raised? Was there politics in your upbringing?
Yes. First of all, let me say Nebraska is quite literally a red state. People from Nebraska keep asking me to mention the Huskers when I go on an interview. So please
Right.
allow me to just talk about the Nebraska Cornhuskers. All right. So, yeah, no, I grew up in a Catholic conservative family. I went to Catholic school my whole life. And in fact, it was a very tiny town, 3,200 people.
Wow.
My graduating class from high school was 18 people. So,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, very, very conservative Catholic upbringing, and I definitely rebelled against those conservative Catholic values.
Yeah.
And yes, largely because I was a very, precocious kid, and I somehow,
No, I couldn't see that.
yeah, I talked to my parents. They'll back me up. Um, yeah, and so I somehow I just always sort of knew that I I don't even know how I knew what gay was, but I just knew that that's what I was. It's
Right.
kind of funny. I can remember being a kid and I was watching a music video for this band called Tears for Fears. They had a song called Shout,
Love him.
right?
Grew up with
Good,
him.
good
Absolutely.
song. I was watching a video for Shout by Tears for Fears, and I had a crush on the singer, and I was just like, oh my God, I think I'm gay. And I was like a little kid. But
Wow.
anyway, yeah, it was weird. But anyway, yeah, so I always knew that. I sort of rebelled against it. And, my parents aren't like, strident conservatives or, I
Okay.
mean, they're not like, it's not, I didn't grow up in an oppressive political climate or anything like that. But I was not raised amongst liberalism. I'll put it that way.
Well, did you take incoming from the fact that you maybe were outwardly gay, or I don't know? I mean, when did you come out when you were in Nebraska?
Yeah, well, I mean, I like officially came out to my family when I was 19 years old, but
Okay.
it's the kind of thing that, I'm not maybe I don't think I'm the most flaming person in the world, but I'm also not Rambo. Okay, so it's like most people who just have an exchange with me are kind of like, I think this guy might be gay, and I get it. Like,
Right.
it's fine. I get it. So I wasn't like going around telling people, but people, they could they could figure it out. And so most people just assumed that I was gay, and like when I was in high school. And I did tell a couple of my friends, two of my closest friends were girls, and I told them, and they were very accepting and supportive. But the rest of the other kids just sort of assumed that I was gay, and most of them did not react favorably to that assumption,
Okay.
I would say.
And so, I mean, did that cause any, from your standpoint, any disposition of anger or resentment, or I hate conservatives, or whatever it may
Yes.
be?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. It definitely did. And yeah, and I mean, and I think that that was backed up by the fact that, for so many years, gay people were used as a political wedge issue. Um, See, and this sort of leads to so much when I'm doing interviews now and I'm talking about walk away. So much of the focus is about the left and why I walked away from the or am walking away from the did walk away from the left, and where liberals are at this point. But at some point, and that's where I want my focus to be right now, because the focus needs to be on getting people away from the left. But
Right.
at some point, we do, I think, as a society and a culture, have to have a discussion and a reckoning about what happened with the gay community, because it's not something that should just be buried and put swept under the rug, because it was bad. I mean, I think, speaking for myself, I think conservatives were dead wrong about what happened with the gay community, and I think that the way that they handled us in political issues was very, very badly handled. And I think that it resulted um, in incredibly damaged relationships with, the typical gay voter, I think, has an incredibly bad taste in their mouth about republicanism and about the right. And I don't think that that's fully ever going to go away until at some point the Republican Party and people on the right make some acknowledgement about what went down. That's my opinion.
And this is the purpose of me asking these questions. Quite frankly, I don't care about identity. I don't care if you're white or you're black. And you've said this yourself. You said, and I'm going to quote you here, you said, if you're a white person, you're not supposed to talk. If you're a man, you're not supposed to talk. In fact, if you're black, you're not supposed to talk out. So, the fact is that we're all been cookie cut into these little categories, subcategories, which mostly have been utilized by the left to divide us and then get political power. And somebody coming, and listen, I've got gay friends, many of them are conservatives. I know a lot of people in Hollywood. And they had epiphanies like you've had, and that's my interest in asking these questions. Right. It isn't so much about the identity, it's about how that pivot happened. And, what you're doing right now is you're highlighting some of the discrepancies that we're seeing now coming from the left, and how you are being used. And so, I don't care, right? I look at a person based upon, it's Martin Luther King. I based you upon the content of your character, not the color of your skin or your sexuality or anything else. I don't care. Right? And I think most people feel that way. Now you have the extremes, and those extremes are highlighted by the media to divide us.
Right. And I don't disagree with you whatsoever. But I guess to a certain degree, the point I'm trying to make, because I agree, I have not felt at all like anybody on the right cares that I'm gay. And I think that that's fantastic. And I think that's exactly where we should be. But I think that to a certain degree, I think for a lot of people on the left, particularly those who are gay, what they need, it's fantastic that, people can say, we love you, we accept you. But I still, again, think at some point it needs to be addressed that, back when we were debating issues like, say, gay marriage, different gay rights stuff, there were a lot of Republican politicians who were catering to a very fundamental religious base.
Agreed.
And so it's okay that we can have differing opinions about what marriage should be, or what public policy should be. That's okay. But I think what went horribly wrong was that in the process of that debate, we started hearing a lot of Republican politicians on the debate floor using junk science, using junk studies, and saying things like, gay people corrupt children, people choose to be gay, people are gay because they were sexually abused as children. That's the kind of stuff that gay people are not going to be able to just get over.
Yeah.
Just because people on the right now are saying, but we don't care if you're gay. Well, that's great that you don't care if people are gay, but we need to sort of have a discussion about what happened and move forward from it.
I think it's important to have that discussion, but I think it's also important to have a discussion that includes all of the history and not selective history. I mean, for example, Barack Obama in 2008 and Hillary Clinton in 2010 and 11 were saying the same things that the right were saying.
Right.
So we've evolved, and the left has evolved. Many and most, if I can, just speak anecdotally, that I know have evolved. But it isn't just the left or the right. I think when it comes to this particular issue.
Right. Can I say something really quick about that? Because I feel like I did just sort of hammer at the right a little bit there. So I would just, in the interest of fairness, I think the reason why what I was saying just now, I was sort of putting my focus on the right is because after I had my red pill experience and I sort of extracted myself from the liberal ideology and the notion of being a Democrat, I really looked at the two parties side by side for almost like, let's wipe the slate clean and take a look. And I so strongly feel like conservatism and the Republican Party are exactly what this country needs to succeed. I think that I think the national, having a plan of nationalism, populism, closed borders, these are things that are going to help our country succeed. And that's why our president right now is knocking it out of the park. So I guess the reason why I was a little bit hard on the right just now, because I agree with you, the left, wasn't that much better for gay people either. But people need to see that if the two parties are held up side by side, people should be on the right. That's what's in the best interest of everybody. So, I mean, I really, really want minorities in the gay community to see that, like, you're right. We do need to get past, sort of these old animosities that have taken place and see what is the future about. Like, and for me, the future is about America first and MAGA. That's where we need to
Right,
be.
right. Want to ask you a couple of questions. Got a couple of questions here from our Ricochet community, where this podcast is going to be played a little bit later. And some of these folks have pseudonyms for names. So one of them is Gossamer Cat. And she says, I assume it's a she, why was it so easy to believe that half the country had no redeeming qualities whatsoever?
Okay, so the reason why, that's a great question. The reason why I think that was so easy to believe is because liberals, I think that the reason why people end up being liberals is it's sort of a collection of disenfranchised people who feel that they are sort of in a victim class, whether it be Black people, Hispanic people, gay people. And then, of course, there are heterosexual white liberals, but those people usually tend to be what we call like the allies, which I think are just really just major virtue signalers. But I mean, that's sort of the liberal base, are sort of these disenfranchised people and their virtue signaling supporters. And so if you want to trigger a liberal, just start talking about social injustice. I mean, it literally, if you, I mean, a liberal could literally be in the middle of taking a nap, but just say the word racism and they'll wake up and go, where, who's being racist?
Yeah.
What's going, So it's like, it's so easy to manipulate a liberal's ideas or their mindset by simply saying, he's a racist, she's a racist, they're a racist. And that's what they did ad nauseum during the campaign. I mean, they would isolate all these moments from Trump, take a 20-second soundbite, throw it up on the air with a banner below that says Trump makes racist comment at rally, and then show all his, they'll just show a shot of all the white people going yay, and we fell for it, and I'm sorry. I mean, I would like to say on my own behalf to all the people in middle America or all the people on the right for whom I was a part of that viciousness and that name calling, I'm really sorry.
Well, first of all, I appreciate that sentiment. I think if I listen, you are engaged, right? You're woke, right? I mean, red pilled, I guess.
I think
right.
So.
You've awoken from the wokeness, if that's a term now. But you're engaged, and I think anybody that is engaged like yourself will see the wood for the trees. I don't think too many people are as engaged, though, and I think that's the problem. I think everybody gets their little snippets of news from Facebook or Twitter or just channel surfing and groupthink. Right.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
and that's the problem. And I think a lot in the media, especially from a leftist standpoint, understand that, and they know exactly the siren calls to use, racism, as you just said,
Yes.
to put that narrative out there. Now, this is I want to talk a little bit more about this red pill movement. And in the past couple of months, it's coming from yourself. It's coming from others as well. We've seen Kanye West talk about thinking independently. And just because he's Black doesn't automatically have to make him a Democrat. Candace Owens, who we've had on our show a few times, and we're going to be talking with her next week at Freedom Fest. By the way, folks, don't forget to get your tickets for Freedom Fest in Las Vegas. Save $100. FreedomFest.com. Use Whiskey100. Sorry, little plug there.
I want to go to Freedom Fest.
You need to be at Freedom Fest. I'll get you on a panel with me. We need to talk. Okay. I've got Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens up there. You should be there with us. So
I'd love to go.
Yeah, let's talk about that. But for all intents and purposes, you're a very demographic. You're the very demographic liberals can count on, right? Because of your sexuality, because of where you live. You're an actor. Yeah. Right? I mean, you don't get much more liberal than that, right?
Right.
For a white guy, that's a progressive trifecta.
Right.
Yes. Do you see yours and Kanye's message taking hold of open-minded people?
Well, yes. I need to separate those two things, I think, because Listen, I don't want to say anything negative about what Kanye did because I think that it did certainly spark a discussion, and I think that that discussion will lead to a greater good and a greater movement. I guess where I feel like Kanye fell a little short, in my opinion, is he sort of made a provocative statement and then it disappeared, and he didn't really give anybody a path or a plan. I mean, I think he left himself open to sort of be attacked, and then it just sort of went away. And I think that a lot of people, because as we saw, he made that statement, and I believe the numbers were that support from the Black community went from 11% to 22%, like overnight for
It's
Trump.
doubled. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know where it is now, but unfortunately, he made those statements, and then he kind of just disappeared, or at least that discussion disappeared. And then the left-wing media did what the left-wing media does, which is started calling him insane, that he's having a nervous breakdown, that he lost his mind, and there was no real plan. Like, okay, so what do we do? And that's where I feel like maybe there's a difference, and that's why I think that my campaign has touched so many people and really grabbed hold. Is I not only came out and really slapped, I want to use a different word, but I don't know if I'm allowed to on your show. I really be slapped. I'm allowed to curse. Okay,
we're good. I mean, be slapped is fine.
I really be slapped America with my video, and not only did I do that, I gave them a plan. I said, listen, I'm going to kind of lead the charge on this thing. Here it is. Here's the definitive statement about why you should be leaving the left, and this is what we should do next. And it gave people a clear plan of action, and they're taking it. They're heeding the call. People have been going on. So this is happening on Facebook. It's the hashtag Walkaway Campaign. There's a group on Facebook. If you look up hashtag Walkaway Campaign on Facebook, it's a testimonial campaign, and people are making their videos and their written testimonials. But see, the other thing I want to make really clear, because I think this is so important, is this is not just for people on the left. It's for people on the right too. People on the right are also making their testimonials and their videos and their written testimonials, and they're saying they, as the silent majority, are getting their voice back, and they're saying they don't want to be silent anymore. They're going to be pushing back. What they're saying is, the common narrative is that I'm a racist, I'm a bigot, but guess what? That's not true. I'm not any of those things that the left-wing media and the liberals keep telling you that I am. I'm actually this, and this is why I'm a conservative. And not only that, for all of you out there who are Black, who are gay, who are whatever, you've probably heard that we hate you over here and that we don't want you over here. And nothing could be further from the truth. There is a place for you here on the right. We want you here. That's what's happening in this campaign. And it's created this incredible atmosphere where people of all different backgrounds and all different walks of life. I mean, we have people in there. We literally have people in there doing videos in drag. We have, little old ladies who go to church every day making their videos. We have Black people, we have white people, we have old people, we have young people, all different types of people, and they're making their videos and they're supporting one another. And some of them hate Trump, and some of them love Trump, and some of them said, I'm walking away from the left, but I don't want to be a Republican. I just want to be an independent. And that's great. That's awesome. And everyone's speaking to each other with civility and with support and with understanding. And what this country needs more than anything right now is that open dialogue and compassion and kind discourse. And that's what's growing and breeding. It's as if this is what my friend Maria Albanese is saying all the time. What we're doing in that group is we're growing the center. The fringe left, we don't need you. We don't want you. The fringe right, unless you want to walk away, then we want you. But if you're going to be fringe left, if you're going to be fringe right, just stay there. It's fine. But what we're doing is we're all coming together in the center, and we're going to grow that common sense center, and we're going to let the independent thinkers and the common sense thinkers of America take control of the wheel again.
This Synthonian, another Ricochet member, she says, and again, I assume it's a she, I'd like to know how much traction he has gotten with this message, how viral it is. How about college campuses? Is he being invited to show the video and to speak at any? And I'm also curious if he has been fatwa'd by the left.
Oh my
Job,
God.
income threatened, home picketed, defaced, any threats to his safety, because the left takes pushback very seriously.
Right. Okay. So the first part was
Yeah,
the reach.
yeah.
So as of now, my video has been reformatted by several different sources. It's been placed into other people's articles. It's been reposted on other people's blogs and sites. So my original version of the video has gotten over 2 million views. But if we
Wow.
take together all of the different reformatted sources, I mean, at this point, honestly, we're looking at well over 6 million. There's a social media superstar who I have admired for a long time. His name is Anomaly. He spells that A-N letter zero, Anomaly. He has a huge following. He has huge support, and he's reformatted my video. And his reformat of my video got 2 million views within a week. So
Wow.
so he's been a huge boost to me just on his own. So huge reach on Twitter. Analytics are telling us that walk away, the hashtag, was at least the third most used hashtag for several days over the course of the past week. But Twitter will not say that in their trending hashtags. It's never shown up as a trending hashtag on Twitter, and I doubt if it ever will. But it is, and so obviously there's a lot of suppression that's happening on social media and whatnot. And the other part of her question, I would love to do speaking engagements. I would love to go on college campuses. I would love to talk to students.
Yeah.
I would love to go to rallies. I would love to talk to people. I would love to just get there in person, meet the people, and speak out about this as much as possible. At this point, nothing's set up. I haven't been formally invited by anybody.
All
And in
right.
terms,
Well, we'll talk after this interview. I'll connect with some people.
oh, that would be great.
Need to get you on campus. And the second part of her question: have you been fatwa'd?
Right.
How's it impacted you? I mean, you're coming from a very liberal community, a very liberal geography. Has it impacted you? Have you been picketed, attacked in any way?
No, I mean, God, and honestly, I'd be so excited if I was. You have no idea how thrilling that would be. I feel like I really made it. I'm frankly quite disappointed. I mean, what was it? The Washington Post? Oh, the Daily Beast. Washington Post and Daily Beast did a hit piece on me, but I was so I was like, this is my hit piece. They're so lazy at this point, and I think they're on such life support that it's like even their hit pieces are just such snoozers. I was just, because basically what the Washington Post tried to do was not even assassinate my character or not even try to discredit me particularly. What they were trying to do, the angle that they took, which was just such an eye roller, they took the angle of trying to say that it's virality itself.
It's not viral. They're trying not to make it a viral. That was what I read as well, and that surprised me.
That virality has become passé, and I was just like,
yeah. Yeah, it's
really?
like, oh, that doesn't matter anymore. Viral videos don't matter anymore type approach. It was really strange.
I hope they feel like it doesn't matter anymore when the midterms come.
Yeah, right. Many of us have been really horrified, especially as of late, not surprised, but horrified at the transparency and the honesty of what we're seeing coming from the left. Socialism, right down the street from where you are. You just had a candidate win a primary that she's likely going to be a congresswoman. Free everything without understanding the complex economic systems. It's all about race and gender preferences, which is essentially racism in my mind. But it's the very things that this country was fought. I mean, here we are on July the 4th. This is what we were trying to escape, right? We're trying to fight against. I believe, and I think you've touched upon this already, that 60%, maybe 70% of the population want us to come together in some way. The extremes on both ends they're the ones taking up the oxygen on the cable news networks, but there's us sitting here together having a discussion. How do we do that? How do we bring people together?
Well, we joined the Walk Away campaign. No, I mean, honestly, I think this campaign is a great start because it's at least opened the door to get these conversations started. And see, I can't stress enough how important I think this is. I believe that we've gotten to where we are today with these fringe people on the left, these sort of extremist leftists being able to have so much power and so much control because there's been a certain amount of passiveness on the right. And I understand, there's a reason why we call these people moderates. They're moderate people. They don't like to be confrontational. They don't like to get in the dirt and have fights with people. Like, I totally get it. And a lot of these people, they're being attacked and called racists and bigots, and they'd rather just be like, you know what, I just don't even want to engage in this conversation. But unfortunately, at this point, you have to. I mean, I'm not saying you need to like put your gloves on and if you're just like some little old lady in the Midwest who doesn't like, but it's like at the very least, people need to at this point say, hey, that's not okay to say about me, because that's not true. I mean, there's at least got to be that level of pushback, because at this point, these extremists on the left feel so entitled to their feelings, and they feel so entitled to be engage in whatever behavior that they deem necessary to engage in, because they feel the way that they feel. And the reason that they feel so entitled is because no one has stood up to them. They're bullies. They're complete bullies, and they're not used to people pushing back. That's why it is insane that we now have elected officials getting behind a microphone and saying, if you see a Trump supporter at the gas station or in the parking lot, circle around them and harass them and intimidate them. That is insane. But you know why that she feels perfectly comfortable saying that? Because no one up until this point has said, enough, stop. We are not going to take this anymore. You have to stop, and we're not going to allow you to do this to us anymore. So first of all, we've got to get control back. That's the first thing that needs to happen. And once we get control back, then we can kind of resume a common sense narrative in this country. But it's, to a certain degree, we have ourselves to blame a little bit, and we have to correct that error because we haven't pushed back enough as these people. We watched, resistance turn into tantrums. We watched tantrums turn into name calling and viciousness. And now we're basically on the brink of calls for violence from the left. And we have to push back and get this under control.
Yeah, and I really do applaud what you're doing. I mean, just the hashtag campaign, walk away on its own, I think is viral, and that's fantastic. But you're talking macro now. You're talking about societal change.
Yes, I
It's
am.
a pretty big, heavy load for you to carry. Listen, you're out there right now. You're an actor, so I'm sure you appreciate being out there because it's in your blood. But what's it like for you personally? I mean, how's this impacted you?
Well, I mean, on an emotional level, honestly, I'm fine. Really, I'm exhilarated. I'm in it to win it. I'm ready to go. I mean, I can say, from a personal standpoint, I haven't slept in about a month, and I haven't eaten in about a month. I think I've lost about 50 pounds, but it's fine. I feel totally exhilarated and good to go, and I feel like I'm on a mission, and I have no intention of slowing down. I have no intention of stopping. Uh, but I have to be honest with you. I mean, I know that it makes for a sexier story to sit here and say that, oh, I have, people trying to run over me with their cars on my way home, and I'm getting death threats and stuff. The truth is, I think that the left kind of realizes that they are imploding, and I have been surrounded by so much love and so much support. The followers of my campaign, the Walkaway campaign, and I have a public page on Facebook called The Unsilent Minority. That's my page. And that's all my social media is The Unsilent Minority, which is handle at US Minority. So please follow me. And the reason why I want to make that clear is because if you go to my Facebook page, The Unsilent Minority, that's where you're going to find all your calls for action for this campaign. That's where I'm going to get on there and I'm going to make live videos and keep you up with what's going on. And I'm going to tell you, this is how you can help out. We're going to do a Twitter blast today, so get on board with that, those kind of things. But the followers of the Walkaway campaign and my page, The Unsilent Minority, I call them the Patriots. I don't refer to them as followers, and I don't refer to them as members. I call them the Patriots. They're my team, and we're in this together. And I'm telling you, if anybody tries to come for me, they better watch their back, because these people are so supportive of me. They have loved me and embraced me, and they have made it very clear, if anybody messes with you, let us know, because we will instantly put a stop to it.
It's nice.
And
that's
yeah,
awesome.
oh yeah,
That's got to feel really good for you.
right. So
Yeah.
I encourage anybody on the left who thinks that they are going to get cute and try to cause trouble for me to put a little thought into that, because you may get more than you ask for.
Yeah. To call them cute, that's cute. Last
Yeah.
question from Ricochet. This is from Richard Easton, and he says, is the left afraid of the arguments of the right? And I'm paraphrasing his question here. He says, don't these people understand that a good leftist should know the arguments of the right? These people are crippling their own growth and ability to make arguments. Do you agree with that?
I 100% agree with that. And let's address this from two different angles. The first is the fact that they don't have compelling arguments in return, and oftentimes I think don't even understand what the conversation is actually about, is why they react purely with emotion. This is why they become so angry and unhinged and enraged and emotional, is because they don't have a compelling counter argument. So yes, they should understand that for that very purpose. The other angle of this, please tell me I didn't lose my thought.
Well, are they crippling their growth? Are they not able to expand their brains and deal with society as the realities that are, how they exist out there?
Thank you for giving me my thought back. Yes, that's what it was. So yes, I mean, this is like a conversation that I've had many times with many people, is that, on the one hand, they think that they're doing a good thing when they do things like suppress conservatives from being able to speak, say, on college campuses, or these lunatics in Antifa who are, going and shutting down protests or public demonstrations. So, but the thing is that by doing that, okay, let's take an extreme example, one that it goes without saying, you and I do not condone or approve of. Like let's say the KKK. Okay, I know you don't. I know that you do not approve of or condone the KKK, and neither do I. However, if you're going to make it your mission to make it so that the KKK can never speak and that they can never demonstrate or they can never be in a public square and have their constitutional right to demonstrate, do you really think that's going to make the KKK go away? Or do you think that what's going to happen is you're going to drive them further underground and make them even more subversive? I mean, what they're really doing is creating an atmosphere in which they don't even know now what's boiling underneath. Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Right.
And if you allow the KKK to come out in the public square and say what they have to say, then guess what? We know exactly what they're doing. We know where they stand. We know what they're up to. We know what their plans are. And then we can kind of keep them in check. And we can say, let's keep an eye on them because they're kind of planning this. And let's make sure we've got that under control. If you're going to drive them underground and make them so subversive that they're meeting secretly in dark rooms and we don't even know what they're plotting and they're planning, then it's like you're actually creating a much more dangerous atmosphere. And then all of a sudden we get surprised one day by this incredibly, crazy thing that happens that we had no way of knowing was going to happen because we've suppressed these people's constitutional right to say what they have to say. We may not like it, we may hate it, and we may feel disgusted by it. But by allowing it to happen, first of all, we're honoring our Constitution, which is important. And second of all, we're arming ourselves with knowledge,
Yeah. Well, I think that's extremely a healthy approach to this, and it really is. Now, there's this significant movement. You are at the pinnacle of it. You've caught this gust of Twitter wind, social media wind. Where do you want this to go? I mean, you are part of this entourage now, this army of free thinkers, right? Where do you want to take this?
Well, for the immediate, I would like it to just continue to grow and grow and grow. I want to open more people's eyes to the truth about the Democratic Party and to the truth about what liberal ideology actually is and where it will lead us. And I would like as many people to walk away from the left as possible. And from a standpoint of empowerment, I really want the gay community particularly, but really minorities of all kinds, racial minorities, LGBT people, I want them to become empowered and to see that you don't just have to be a statistic and a demographic that is on the left by default because of the virtue of who you are and your identity. You're not identity first. You're an individual first. And I want you to know that you have a choice. And I want you to be empowered by that choice and to know that you can be a part of the democratic process. You can be a part of the shaping of our country and our culture and the policies that we as a country are going to come together and make. You are a part of that discussion. You don't have to just vote Democrat because that's what you're expected to do. Now, as this movement grows and grows and grows, who knows? I mean, maybe at a certain point, we will talk about, perhaps this being a more impactful social movement that politicians really need to look at. But that in itself, I mean, the Democrats right now should actually be calling me on the phone and saying thank you. I think because what I've done is I've created a space where under one roof, everybody's coming together and saying, this is what I want for America. This is what I had hoped for. This is what I wish I could expect from my government and my politicians. But are they listening to them? I mean, how many Democrat politicians have gone into the walkaway campaign and watched these testimonials and said, listen, hey, we've literally got a control group here who's literally just giving us literally a checklist of what they need from us. Do you think that they're listening? Do you think no, they're too busy talking about what's going on at the border and, Trump being a Nazi and, so it's like, at the very least, I would love it if our own government and our own politicians would pay attention to what's going on in this room, because the American people are literally telling you, this is what we want. Listen to us. Stop talking about us and start talking to us.
I don't think I wouldn't hold your breath to get too many from inside the Democratic Party calling you with that message. You are a major threat. They have to divide for them to stay in power. They have to make us fear each other for them to stay in power. You've said it yourself. You're a victim, right? You have to be a victim. Right. And so I applaud what you're doing. I think it's necessary. This is one of the reasons we wanted to have you on. There's such a pent-up demand right now for people right of center and left of center, the center being the middle, right? Not the extremes. And people on the left are taking a look at their party. There's everybody's saying this nowadays. If JFK, John F. Kennedy, came back today, he would not be considered a Democrat. He would be considered a Republican because he believed in free markets and individual responsibility and accountability. And this message is missing now from the left. So thank you for what you're doing, Brandon. Again, let's go back through where people can find you.
Thank you. So the Walkaway campaign, that's #WalkawayCampaign, is a group page that's happening on Facebook. In time, we'll have a well-established website, and as we grow, that's going to be coming soon. But for the present, you can find us on Facebook, and that's where you're going to find all the testimonials, the video testimonials, the written testimonials from people on the left and people on the right. And if you want to find out more about, the comings and goings of the campaign, how you can help out, how you can get involved, or what's being talked about in the campaign, you go to The Unsilent Minority. That's The Unsilent Minority on any of my social media. My handles on all formats of social media is @USMinority. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And that's how you can keep in touch with me. And you can go on the Walkaway Campaign group page on Facebook, and that's where you'll find the testimonials and where the real meat of the campaign is.
Thank you so much. And we'll put the links up with this show and this podcast and the video when it comes out as well. Brandon Straka, thank you so much for what you're doing, and thank you for spending the time with us today. Really do appreciate it, and I wish you nothing but success and luck. And I'm sure we're going to be crossing paths at some of these big events down the road here.
I fully expect that. And thank you so much for having me on today. It's been great talking with you.
Pleasure. Likewise. And folks, don't forget to follow us at ricochet.com. You can subscribe and give us that 5-star rating at iTunes. On America's Voice Television Network, look for the show, and also subscribe to us on YouTube. And you can find me on Twitter at David Sussman, and our Facebook page, Whiskey Politics. And happy 4th of July, everybody. Let's go out and celebrate this country. Amazing freedom. Again, thanks to Brandon Straka, and have a wonderful day, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.